It happened in less than 2 seconds, yet those 2 seconds changed 2 lives forever. While dozens of wealthy guests laughed beneath sparkling chandeliers during an extravagant charity luncheon, one quiet woman noticed something no one else did. Without creating the slightest scene, she calmly exchanged one crystal glass for another. Moments later, the powerful billionaire everyone admired collapsed, not because he had been poisoned, but because the poison meant for him had never reached his lips. When he finally understood who had silently saved him, he realized that every fortune he had built could never repay the stranger who had given him another chance to live. If you believe kindness, forgiveness, hope, and second chances can change lives, please like this video, leave a comment, share this story with someone you care about, and subscribe to our channel so our community can continue sharing meaningful stories together. The annual charity gala luncheon was the most anticipated daytime event in the city. Business leaders, politicians, doctors, artists, and journalists gathered beneath enormous windows that filled the ballroom with warm afternoon sunlight. Every table overflowed with elegant flowers, polished silverware, and carefully prepared meals, while cameras flashed as guests applauded generous donations made to children's hospitals. At the center of the celebration sat Alastair Rowan, a self-made tycoon known throughout the country for transforming bankrupt companies into thriving businesses. Newspapers described him as brilliant, fearless, and impossible to fool. Yet very few people knew how lonely success had become. After years of betrayal, lawsuits, and false friendships, Alastair trusted contracts more than people. His smile had become something he wore for photographers instead of something he genuinely felt. Among the catering staff moved a young woman named Meredith Hale. She had worked countless events without anyone remembering her face. She preferred it that way. Her life had taught her that quiet observation often revealed more truth than loud conversation ever could. Years earlier, she had dreamed of becoming a nurse, but after her father suffered a disabling accident and her younger brother required expensive therapy, she abandoned college to support her family. She never complained. Every tray she carried represented another payment toward medicine, rent, or groceries. She believed dignity was not measured by the job someone held but by the compassion they carried into it. As Meredith carefully served drinks around the ballroom, she noticed something strange. One guest sitting near Alastair seemed unusually interested in the glasses instead of the speeches. The man kept glancing toward the head table with nervous impatience. His movements were subtle, almost invisible beneath the excitement of the celebration, but Meredith had spent years reading body language while navigating crowded events. She sensed fear rather than celebration. Then she noticed another tiny detail. One glass resting near Alastair's seat carried a nearly invisible smudge around the rim, as though someone had handled it differently from every other perfectly polished glass. Her instincts screamed that something was terribly wrong. She knew she could not accuse anyone without proof. Security would likely dismiss her concerns. The event was too prestigious for wild accusations from a server. Instead of freezing, Meredith made a decision that required no permission. While gracefully replacing a nearby bread plate, she lifted Alastair's untouched glass and replaced it with another identical one from her serving tray in one smooth motion. No guest noticed. No camera captured it. The suspicious man, believing his plan remained untouched, quietly watched from across the room. Only moments later, another server accidentally picked up the original glass and carried it toward the kitchen. Before anyone realized what had happened, the nervous guest abruptly stood and hurried toward an exit. His panic immediately caught the attention of security officers, who intercepted him before he could disappear. The abandoned glass was later examined after Meredith privately shared her concerns. Investigators discovered traces of a deadly chemical capable of causing sudden cardiac arrest. The cheerful luncheon instantly transformed into a criminal investigation. News reporters rushed outside as police secured the building. Guests whispered in disbelief. Everyone wondered who had uncovered the plot. Meredith quietly resumed collecting dishes, hoping to avoid attention. She had not acted for recognition. She simply could not ignore what her conscience had seen. Hours later, investigators reviewed security footage from multiple angles. They watched Meredith exchange the glasses with remarkable calm before anyone else recognized danger. Officers interviewed every witness, eventually confirming that her quick thinking had prevented a carefully planned assassination. Alastair asked to meet the woman whose name he had only recently learned. When Meredith entered the quiet conference room, she expected questions from lawyers or detectives. Instead, she found a man who no longer looked like the untouchable billionaire featured on magazine covers. His face carried genuine emotion, and for perhaps the first time in years, gratitude outweighed pride. He learned about Meredith's life through the investigation. He discovered she worked double shifts, cared for her injured father, helped her brother attend therapy, and still volunteered at a neighborhood food pantry whenever she found spare time. None of those acts had ever appeared on social media. No newspaper celebrated them. She simply believed helping others was the right thing to do. The discovery unsettled Alastair. He had spent decades believing everyone wanted something from him. Yet the woman who had literally saved his life had expected nothing at all. The investigation soon revealed a heartbreaking motive behind the attempted murder. A former executive, consumed by bitterness after losing his position because of repeated financial fraud, had chosen revenge instead of responsibility. Rather than accepting the consequences of his own dishonesty, he blamed Alastair for every failure that followed. Years of resentment eventually became hatred. The charity event presented what he believed was the perfect opportunity. The public praised the security team once the story became national news, but Alastair insisted the truth be told. During a daytime press conference held outside his company's headquarters, he publicly thanked Meredith before hundreds of reporters. He explained that courage often arrived without applause and that true heroes sometimes wore simple uniforms instead of expensive suits. Meredith suddenly found herself recognized wherever she went. Television stations requested interviews. Companies offered promotional opportunities. Strangers called her a hero. She politely declined nearly every offer. She returned to work the following week because bills still needed paying. Her humility inspired people even more than her bravery. Alastair could not stop thinking about the contrast between their lives. He owned multiple homes yet often ate alone. Meredith lived in a modest apartment with constant financial pressure, yet her home overflowed with love, sacrifice, and purpose. Instead of simply writing her a generous check, he wanted to honor the values she represented. He quietly arranged for Meredith's father's rehabilitation expenses to be fully funded through an anonymous charitable foundation. Her brother received access to specialized therapy programs previously beyond the family's reach. Meredith herself was offered something she had abandoned years earlier, a full scholarship to complete nursing school whenever she chose. At first she hesitated. She feared accepting such generosity might erase the independence she had fought so hard to preserve. Eventually she understood that accepting kindness could require as much courage as giving it. She enrolled. Balancing studies with work demanded extraordinary determination. There were exhausting afternoons when she questioned whether she had started too late. Younger classmates seemed to absorb lessons effortlessly while Meredith rushed between lectures, hospital training, and caring for her family. Whenever doubt appeared, she remembered that one silent decision involving two identical glasses had proven ordinary people could change extraordinary moments. Alastair also experienced unexpected change. His near-death experience forced him to examine the emptiness hidden beneath endless ambition. He began spending more time visiting hospitals, scholarships, rehabilitation centers, and community organizations rather than chasing another business acquisition. Employees noticed he listened more carefully, encouraged struggling workers instead of immediately replacing them, and personally funded emergency assistance programs for staff facing family crises. People assumed surviving an assassination attempt had made him fearful. In reality, it had made him grateful. Months passed. Meredith graduated with outstanding results. Standing in the bright afternoon sunshine after the graduation ceremony, she looked toward her father, who proudly stood with the assistance of a cane instead of a wheelchair. Her brother laughed beside him, healthier and stronger than doctors had once predicted possible. Tears filled Meredith's eyes because she finally understood that hope rarely arrived all at once. It came through countless small choices made with compassion, patience, and faith. Alastair attended the ceremony quietly from the audience. He applauded louder than anyone. Later that year, the Children's Hospital benefiting from the original charity luncheon opened a new patient care wing. Instead of naming it after the billionaire whose donations funded much of the project, Alastair requested it honor Meredith Hale. He explained that buildings should remember not only generous wealth but courageous character. When reporters asked Meredith whether she considered herself extraordinary, she smiled gently. She said that most people would have done the same if they had truly paid attention. The greatest danger in the world was not always evil itself but the habit of assuming someone else would act first. Her words spread far beyond the city. Schools shared the story during assemblies about courage. Medical students discussed the importance of observation. Business leaders spoke about integrity instead of image. Families gathered around dinner tables reflecting on how one unnoticed act of kindness had echoed through countless lives. The attempted murderer eventually admitted that years of resentment had blinded him until he could no longer recognize right from wrong. His confession reminded everyone that bitterness rarely destroys only its target. It first destroys the heart that carries it. Alastair visited him once before sentencing, not to excuse the crime but to release his own anger. He refused to allow hatred to define the life he had nearly lost. Forgiveness did not erase justice, but it prevented vengeance from becoming another prison. As seasons changed, Meredith became one of the most respected nurses in the hospital that had inspired her dreams years earlier. Patients remembered her gentle encouragement more than any medication she administered. Families facing heartbreaking diagnoses found comfort in her calm presence because she understood that healing often required compassion alongside treatment. Alastair frequently supported hospital projects, yet he never forgot the lesson that changed everything. Whenever someone praised his success, he quietly remembered the anonymous server who had noticed what nobody else had seen. Please leave a meaningful comment telling us what you believe was the greatest lesson in Meredith's journey. Was it courage, kindness, forgiveness, paying attention to others, or believing that one small action can change countless lives? If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. Remember that the greatest heroes are not always the loudest, the richest, or the most famous. Sometimes they are ordinary people who quietly choose compassion when no one is watching. And sometimes, the smallest act, a simple exchange of two ordinary glasses, becomes the reason an entire future still exists.